Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the Planning Commission meeting to order. It is Monday, April 6th at 6 o'clock. Do a roll call. David? Here. Mike? Here. Kate?
Here.
Bailey?
Here.
Josh? Here. Steve? Here. Okay. The next item on the agenda is to approve the Planning Commission minutes from March 2nd.
Motion to approve the March 2nd, 2026 Planning Commission meeting minutes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to approve March 2nd's Planning Commission minutes. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing, a conditional use permit at 878 East Washington Street. So I'll entertain a motion to go into the public hearing.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to go into the public hearing. Luke?
Mayor, Commission, I just have some information about the proposed conditional use permit, the ADU at 878 East Washington Street. So for those unfamiliar, an ADU is a residential living unit with complete independent living facilities on the same lot as the principal structure. The ordinance states that ADUs are intended to add moderately priced housing units and meet the needs of older homeowners and smaller moderate income households, including supporting aging in place. So Clint Kistler of P City Properties LLC is seeking this conditional use permit to allow an ADU use within an existing detached accessory structure. The structure is long-standing and was not constructed in its current form by the present owner. It has not been documented as a vehicle garage, and it has had water and sewer hooked up to the unit for some time. So with that, city records do not document prior formal approval of the structure as a dwelling unit. And so now we are looking at the request as a current conditional use permit for an accessory dwelling unit use. So because of that, we wanted to look at the ordinance and have some conditions for the accessory dwelling unit use. So on the resolution attached, there are a number of conditions and stuff that the ADU has to meet. Some items of note on that resolution are that it requires owner occupancy, meaning that the owner of the property has to live in the principal structure for at least 50% of the year in order for the accessory dwelling unit to be occupied. There's a maximum of one ADU allowed on the lot. There's no separate sale from the principal dwelling allowed on the lot, meaning that the ADU cannot be sold separately from the actual principal house. There's no short-term rental use allowed, so that means a minimum of 30-day rentals for the accessory dwelling unit. There is a maximum of 2 bedrooms allowed, a connection to the city sanitary sewer system, and the existing structure / site layout may remain, but no expansion, enlargement, footprint increase, or increase in impervious surface can be allowed with it. So with that, the property does meet all of these conditions, subject to the inspection by the city's building inspector. That one is in the process of happening. I believe that it was about 2 weeks ago. All current inspections, our building inspector went out to check it out, and there's just a few outstanding items, unless that's been updated by now. It was just a couple minor GFI outlets, adding an additional outlet near the patio door. So with that, because this is a conditional use in the R1 zoning district, Wisconsin Act 67 states that once a use is listed as conditional in the ordinance, the hearing is not the stage to redebate whether that use belongs in the district. So the hearing should focus on whether this specific application meets the ordinance standards and proposed conditions. So with that, I can open up to the public here. Clint Kistler is here to answer any questions as well, should the Plan Commission have any. Thank you.
So you said it was 2-bedroom max, but right now they're just doing a 1-bedroom?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Of course, this is open to the public too, correct?
Yep.
So if someone would like to step up, state your name.
Okay. Laura Hanneman. I'm at 953 Washington, so I'm kitty corner from this existing property. So I wanted to make sure that I understand what you were saying, so not re-debating something. You're saying I can't debate what? Part of it can I not debate?
So Wisconsin Act 67 states that if the unit meets the conditions in the resolution, they are basically allowed to have that. It's
Okay.
not a,
So here's my confusion part of it. So you guys didn't know that this was even suitable for somebody living in it up until a short time ago, correct? Because you, the city, for whatever reason, didn't know it had driveway access, or you didn't know that it was hooked up to water, or you didn't know that it had the kind of electrical that you would need to support a heating system. None of those things did the city know about. So my first confusion is, how in the world does that happen? I'm not debating whether or not it now exists this way, but how does that even happen?
Sure, I can take that one.
Okay.
So unfortunately, throughout the city, there are a number of homes, and we unfortunately do have homeowners that decide to take it upon themselves to improve their property without pulling the necessary permits. Additionally, if there's a home, for instance, this home, I don't know if, Clint, do you know when this home was built?
So the accessory dwelling unit was.
Oh, shouldn't he be at the podium?
You have to come up here, sir.
Yeah. So we
can hear you.
I hate to say that, Clint, but
So everybody can hear
Yeah,
you.
come on.
people in the audience is all, or on the TV.
Sorry, Clint, I was trying to make it so you didn't have to come up.
No, that's right.
Sorry, Clint, yeah.
So yeah, it was built in the mid to late 90s from what I was told, so.
So to continue on, so unfortunately, there are times when homeowners do not pull permits. We do not know what happens if this structure was built in the 90s and then ultimately the owner decided to improve it into a living unit. That could have happened, although I wasn't here in the 90s. That's another issue, is historically, before records were digitalized, there's a lot of hard copies. We have a whole room in the basement that goes back. The city was founded in 1856, so there's records upon records to try to find and try to keep track of. Fortunately now with digitalization of records, it's much easier, but that's one of the issues that we always have to work to try to figure out. And I know it's frustrating for not only surrounding property owners, I know it's frustrating for Clint because he was hoping that we had a record of this being approved. So that's just something we have to constantly deal with planning and zoning.
So it had the one bedroom already?
But so again, it's kind of confusing to us because we thought a nice family was going to move in, and I'm not saying a nice family isn't going to move in, but you just figure, and that's one, happy little unit there. And then a couple weeks ago, we find out that it could be a rental property, which to me could mean a whole lot of things. I mean, it could be, as has been stated before, it could be, you have an elderly grandparent and they're allowed to live out the rest of their years. That would be fantastic. It could also be the lowest of the low income that can then support the mortgage for the people living in the house that only have to live there 50% of the time, that could then rent it out Airbnb, not the unit itself, but the main house, they can rent it out. And suddenly the kind of people that are there might not be that nice little family that you were hoping for. So again, it was very much a shock to see that was going on. And again, it's more a surprise than anything to me that it was all going on and had no idea it was even going on. And
Certainly an upgrade from what was there and taking place there previously, I would say. And we've had a lot of people stop in and talk to us about like, hey, thank you for cleaning up one of the worst properties in Prescott and making it a
nicer.
nice place for people to live.
But I mean, it's also kind of been done in a way that, again, being kitty corner makes you think it's a bit of a flip, because some of the siding was reused from the old build. And there was some new siding, but then there's some matching. And then there's, existing windows, but then they switch around the windows, so none of the windows match on the main unit. It's a kind of an awkward layout. And then there was a fence, but in fact, the fence got taken down only to have gravel put down to make it look like a driveway, and then a whole bunch of other gravel put down in another spot to make that look like a gravel driveway. So again,
We freshened up the gravel driveways with new gravel.
but I mean,
because
with the one with the fencing,
That was a
that-
gravel driveway that we brought a couple loads of gravel in to freshen up the driveway.
but I
It's
mean,
pretty
it had
simple.
a fence across it. In fact, when
Was
it
this
had a
property
tree.
for sale? Did you buy,
It
you
had-
just purchased
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Again, I'm saying I was
So
shocked.
we initially purchased it as a rental and then found out that with the owner occupancy, it wasn't really gonna work out as a rental, so we decided we were gonna sell it. And so in order to, and we did some nice things to the accessory dwelling unit and we didn't want it to go to waste, so we thought it would be a nice affordable rental for somebody, which is the objective, you know, in the zoning that says, you know, for an accessory dwelling unit, it's to create affordable housing, you know, in the community. And so we didn't want to let that go to waste, so here we are applying for the conditional use permit to, you know, follow the guidelines here. So,
Are you gonna live there, Clint?
no.
Isn't that part of the stipulation?
So we are currently selling it.
So whoever
So whoever
buys it,
buys it will get the conditional use permit, right, Matt?
yeah, it'll go with the property. So whoever buys it, they'll have to be owner occupied for at least 6 months of the
So
year.
for $275, you get a main unit
You gotta come up
and
to the
rental.
podium if you're gonna talk
Correct.
now.
Okay, sorry. So just to confirm, for $275, you get to have the full dwelling, the main dwelling, and you get the adjunct. So not too many deals like that on the market.
I think I had more to say, so.
Okay.
Hi, Gary Sobert from 912 Washington Street. My question would be, what's the occupancy going to be with the 2 bedrooms?
Yeah, good question. So it's actually just a studio, so I would assume it would just be one occupant for that accessory dwelling unit, so.
And conceivably, you're marketing it as a profit, I mean, to help the initial owner.
Yeah, it would definitely be a benefit to somebody with, you know, how expensive housing is these days for a young couple to come in and buy the house and then have, you know, either an option to rent out the ADU to cover some of their mortgage payment or, you know, a family that needs a place for, you know, an elderly parent or something like that to live in, to keep an eye on, so.
Okay, so, well, based on the picture on the driveway.
Correct.
Is that suitable for 2 cars to park? Because won't this lend itself to a street parking situation depending on what?
Well, if there's just one
One, yeah,
occupant
yeah,
in there,
for
then,
sure.
and then there's the other driveway for the house is on the other side, which would accommodate multiple vehicles for the house on the other side.
Okay, so I mean, conceivably, it wouldn't turn into street parking.
Well, and I think that's a stipulation with the city, is there cannot be street parking for the ADU, right?
Oh, is
So
that
that's,
true?
it has to have off-street parking, which this one does have a nice driveway pad, so.
Okay, all right. Well, those would be my questions, and actually, thank you for doing what you did across there.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah. I guess I better hang here for a second.
So, and just to be clear on Act 67, the Plan Commission can require additional conditions of the conditional use permit, but basically the state of Wisconsin says, as long as all the conditions are being met, we cannot turn down a conditional use permit.
I have a couple of questions. So can the primary structure become a VRBO at all?
No, they would lose the.
Neither one can be VRBO,
No,
owner occupied
Well-
and a rental.
No, neither one can be.
It said 50% of the
Ma'am?
time the owner had.
Well,
Come up to the podium if you're gonna talk.
they can't rent it out as a VRBO. They have to live there 50% of the time, but they can't rent it out to anybody else.
Yep, correct.
This is my house. I live 6 months in Florida, 6 months there, and I can rent out the ADU, correct?
It's a long-term
And it has
rental,
to be
yes.
30 days at least at a time.
My next question, just is because I work in municipal government, or I had for a long time, impact fees. Do we charge them an impact fee for this ADU? Because it's another if it's another meter, it should be, correct?
It's tied into the house meter.
I think that's how the water.
So that's how they illegally got the water and sewer put in there, is they didn't go to the city water sewer, they took it out of the house and went from there, which I
Well-
think should have been inspected.
Well,
and
I think,
approved.
I talked to Mike Nelson Plumbing out of Ellsworth, and he remembers doing the plumbing for that particular unit in the 90s, and he said there was no way that we would have done that without permitting. You dig up the whole backyard, and they're a pretty reputable company. He remembers doing it, and I think there seems to be a lot of information missing in the 90s in the city files. I know there was a permit that was paid for, but there was no record of a permit around that time frame for Brett Bryant in the late 90s. So, and he's a licensed contractor. So,
Right, well,
we were just missing some puzzle pieces as far as when it was exactly put up and, if there was actually license pulled when it was put up. But it appears to be a solid structure and done right. So, and then we had Todd Dolan with Alcroy come out and look at it, and everything checked out except a couple of real small things, so.
What else? Any other questions?
Inspector guy.
Any other comments from the public?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
You have a motion, a second to close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next item is consider a possible action of a resolution approving the conditional use permit for an accessory structure ADU at 878 East Washington Street.
I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit for the dwelling unit at 878 East Washington Street.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to approve the conditional use permit for a ADU at 878 East Washington Street. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I do like that the person has to live in the primary residence, so if there are problems with the property or somebody that's living there, at least there's some accountability, so I think that's what's putting me at ease right now.
I believe when this was written, it was, when we discussed it a couple years ago, it was kind of more directed towards or intended for like your mother-in-law suite.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
have your family live with you there if it need be, which is sound.
Any other comments?
It sounds like it's an improvement overall on this property anyway.
I think so.
It is, it was pretty chunky.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Next item on the agenda is the Bluffs, a revised development proposal at 1452 Glen Ridge Drive. And before we get started, on this, there is no action for public comments. You're all more than welcome to sit here and listen, but we've already had the public hearing. This is just another proposal on the same issue. Matt?
Thank you, Mayor and Plan Commission members. So before you tonight is the tabled items from last meeting as well as the Glen Ridge Drive concept plans for 1452. So a little bit of background. Capital Investment Partners submitted a proposal for a high-density residential development at this property, and the map is in the upper right-hand corner. This property is a 3.2 acre parcel that is zoned R4 high-density residential. With the changes we made in 2025, this is the last remaining undeveloped high-density residentially zoned parcel in the city of Prescott. The concept plan was approved by Plan Commission on February 2nd and then City Council on February 9th. Due to the fact it had 3 principal buildings, it did require a PUD overlay. However, after a public hearing by Plan Commission on March 2nd, the Plan Commission recommended denial of that PUD. So the City Council, at their meeting after that, has tabled their determination on the PUD decision until Plan Commission has the chance to review the new concept plan and the one that is essentially updated. So with that, AppFest has submitted a new concept plan. Concept plan number 1 would be one 4-story building of 112 units and no accessory structures. And concept 2 would be 3 3-story principal buildings of 106 units and 2 accessory structures, very similar to the proposal that you already reviewed for the PUD. It would just essentially be bringing the accessory structures into compliance. So as part of this concept plan, number 1, CapFest is proposing to meet all city code requirements for R4 high-density residential zoning. If Planning Commission prefers this option, a full site plan review would be submitted later by CapFest at a later date. Plan Commission, as part of a site plan, cannot arbitrarily deny a site plan review that complies with all applicable zoning regulations. For instance, this would be R4 high-density zoning in this case. However, it may impose reasonable and relevant conditions of approval. So going on a little bit, one of the items that has been discussed is the park dedication per city code 510-47. A developer is required to dedicate 10% of the total acreage of parks, playgrounds, recreation, and open space if the development is greater than 2 acres. However, at the discretion of Plan Commission, the developer may provide a fee in lieu of land dedication. So what is being proposed as part of this development, if it moves forward, would be that a fee of $75,000 be dedicated as part of this development. The reason this is being reached is basically this is 10% of what the potential land acquisition cost is of $750,000 that has been submitted as part of the review for this project. Additionally, Parks and Public Works Committee has reviewed Shane Park Circle and has approved the idea of moving this park, and which I'll put park because it's really just a small play structure and a swing set. Unfortunately, it is surrounded by a road, so moving this area and having this become the neighborhood park for not only this potential development, but also the multi or high density housing that is surrounding it here as well. In addition to that, the proposal would then from the city, and when I say proposal, this would be something that the city would be undertaking, of connecting a trail from Dexter Street all the way to Borner Street, running along the backside here. As part of that development, then what the developer is proposing is putting in a crosswalk to cross Dexter Street with rapid flashing beacons as part of that. One issue, if concept plan number 1, which is proposing a single principal building, is the preferred option, would be we would have to relocate the existing 12-inch water main that runs directly in the middle of the site. It's kind of hard to see on this image here, but essentially there's a 12-inch water main that was put in about 1975 that connects to the water main to the north. This is water tower 2. Water tower number 1 was the one that was originally why this main was put in. So this would have to be relocated if concept plan number 1 is the preferred option. Further research on the easement agreement will need to be done to determine who will pay for the cost of the relocation, specifically how that easement was put into place back in the 1970s. So with that, to go over the 2 concept plans, I'm going to turn it over to Capital Investment Partners. Additionally, Josh, apologize, his name with SEH, Josh Waller with SEH is on a Zoom meeting, which will be walking you through some of the traffic analysis that CapFest has completed for the plan as well. So, Josh, or Trevor, sorry.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Mayor, Plan Commission. So as Matt kind of laid out in terms of location, the bluffs would be located, oops. Well, I can't find the marker, but there it is. So we would be proposing a sidewalk on the east side of the bluffs in which to connect to the crosswalk, but then come over to the west side of the sidewalk that goes up to the high school. We do have our civil engineer here, Sean Bohan from AEC, to address any civil matters. And again, as noted, Joshua Waller from SEH at the end to review traffic findings. The city of Prescott has limited shovel-ready lots available. Developers choose property based on availability, access to public infrastructure, location, plus zoning. Zoning is set by the municipality based upon needs of the community and your comprehensive plan. As noted in R4 residential high density, the following standards are required for front side, accessory side, maximum building height to 4 floors, and impervious surface. Again, R4 requires 1 primary building and 2 accessory structures. This is basically concept number 1. At the very top, you have a 80-unit building. Off to the left is 32. In total, you have 112 units comprised of 16 3-beds, 24 2s, 72 1s. It has 168 beds and 206 open parking stalls, meeting the requirements of the city of 1 parking stall per bed, and does not require a PUD. Up in the far right-hand corner is the dog park, and the lower right-hand corner is the garbage corral. In the center adjoining is a community center, fitness center, and I'll call it a business office for those folks that reside at the property that want to, you're on a Zoom call for work and you want someplace that's private, you're able to go down and use the facility. Your daughter's having a birthday party and you want someplace with a little mini kitchenette to go and host a family, don't want it in your place, it's another use for it. That's what the exterior would look like. 4 stories. Access point from basically between the 2 buildings, looking at the community space in the center. And again, this meets all the requirements of R4. Again, as developers, I totally understand the position of adjacent neighbors that look at it and go, I don't want this in my backyard. I respect that. I don't set the zoning requirements. That's on the Planning Commission, the City of Prescott, and the City Council. Our job is to follow them, right? To meet requirements and bring forth a building design. Personally, I think concept 2 is more of a compromise, not as a monstrosity of a building, split up. Utilization of the, coming down the center, this would be the water main coming down, and in lieu of relocating it, being able to utilize that for parking space, for a couple stalls up on top. We basically, during the public hearing, comments made, and we tried to listen as best we can to do enhancements to the plan to address some of those concerns as best as we can and still have a viable project. Again, adding the crosswalk in the top right-hand corner, decreasing the amount of accessory buildings from 4 down to 2, and quite frankly, it just made sense. A 4-stall garage is kind of silly. So at this one, you have 3 buildings, 3 stories, 106 units, 154 beds in total. With the changes made, the open parking stalls meet the one-on-one by themselves of the 154 beds, versus before we were kind of requiring or relying upon the parking garages to get to that number. Hence why we took out some of the parking garages, in which to be able to make that one-to-one work. The only variance that we required, would be asking for, is for the number of buildings. Again, R4 allows 1, we would be having 3, just to break it up. No water main location. We would state that we would modify the garage leases, and we would do signs indicating no off-street parking. Exterior facade of the building, as you can see in the middle center, that's the crosswalk. In terms of typical garage lease provisions, we would take out the allowance of basically of storageable units. It would have to be for personal vehicles. Interior design, these are nice looking units from an interior with granite. stainless steel appliances, diesel cabinets, same cabinets, LVT. There's a question about will it be able to handle all of the parking requirements? And this is a project in Richmond having very similar parking requirements as the city of Prescott. A little bit different. Theirs is 1.5 stalls per dwelling unit. The city of Prescott is 1 parking stall per bedroom. They equate out about the same, net. This is at 6 o'clock a couple of weeks ago. I asked one of our guys just to fly a drone up to show what it would look like. Trying to have a representative time of when our tenants would be home. This property is 100% occupied. And as you can see, I would estimate 60% of the parking stalls are utilized, maybe 65. This is the current. Again, this one's in River Falls, 100% occupied, 6 o'clock a couple of weeks ago. Again, just to show that, you know, we're very concerned as are anybody else living next by us, by this property that we're proposing, that there's not a bunch of cars on the street. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking to try to maintain and everything on our own property itself. Traffic study, Joshua, I'm going to let you speak on that behalf if you don't mind. And I don't know if I need to unmute you or not. Joshua?
You guys hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. So, thank you everybody. So, yeah, we prepared I guess what we'll call an initial review document to help to set kind of the order of magnitude for the anticipated number of trips that this new development will generate. Kind of, I guess, big takeaway is table 1, kind of in the middle of the document. And when we look at that, we were looking at the 106 units. Basically, during the AM peak, that's going to generate 43 trips. And these numbers are coming from the ITE trip generation manual, which is industry standard. They go around to different areas and study and, you know, kind of come up with these generation rates that then can be applied to, you know, units like this. So that's kind of the background where this is coming from. But AMP, 43 trips in and out, so that's combined people coming and going. And then in the PM peak, it's 55. So just on order of magnitude, you know, obviously it's not going to average out every day, but 60 minutes in an hour, we're talking about less than 1 vehicle per hour coming and going in the AM and PM peak based on, you know, this information that we have at hand. One other thing to note is when we look at these studies, we did not do any physical modeling with this just being an initial review. But as noted on page 3, when we look at traffic out on Highway 10, which I realize is going to be a little bit different than what we have in the neighborhood, but those traffic counts from WISDOT indicate that the AM peak is from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. and then the PM peak is from 4 to 5. I know there's some discussion about, you know, effects to the schools with this kind of being in the heart of the school district. Those peaks don't directly align. So, you know, any traffic study would look at the peak hour of traffic. And then just to the point of the schools, one thing we just touched on, and I guess I can speak on this personally, living near a school is, you know, we all know that it gets pretty hectic for a 15 to 30 minute window. Anybody that doesn't have business at the school is likely to find an alternate route, and there are some options that they can work their way around the school if they're not going that way. To head out to Highway 10 is that's likely the best way to kind of route around the city. So as noted, you know, just again, kind of touching on the order of magnitude, hitting on some of the peaks. You know, we're not saying there's no impact to the school. You know, it's and vehicles will leave the development during that time period, but, you know, just based on the industry standards, worst case would correspond to the existing roadway peaks, which don't correspond to arrival and departure times from the school. So, you know, just from the data at hand, you know, again, giving kind of that order of magnitude and kind of the background for some of the discussion topics. I don't know. I guess I'll turn it over to any questions on this. Kind of, like I said, just wanted to hit on a few of the highlights.
Remember Dave Holfel. So you're saying the AM peak is a 60-minute time period?
Right. Yep.
Between
Okay.
6 and 7.
Well, no, that's just
No.
peak at Highway 10.
Oh, yeah.
So you're just saying at any hour, you could have up to 55 or 43 in the morning and 55 in the afternoon, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Typically, like I said, it corresponds. This is what industry standards are going to say is the worst case scenario. So when we would analyze, we always look at the existing peak hours just to overlay worst case scenario. But yes, in theory, this 43 vehicles could exit at any period of the day.
All right, thank you.
Other questions for Joshua? Plan Commission?
I don't know.
I've shared mine through email.
Thank you, Joshua.
All right, thank you.
Why Prescott? Your estimated population growth is 10% in the next 5 years. Proximity to St. Paul and the surrounding area. A great school system with the large investments that have been made to upgrade the buildings. And a school system that consistently ranks in the top 20% with a very low student-to-teacher ratio. It should be noted that enrollment is declining, and the school does need kids. And at the end of the day, based on the numbers I was able to garner, there's around 1,140, 1,150 students at the school. If you're forecasting out in the next 5 years, it's projected to be 80 to 100 students less. And that's a drain on the community in terms of the school district potentially having to raise taxes or an operational referendum or something to that effect. We believe, as in the past, our developments, will provide bodies, kids to the school system to help support the school and its operational finances. Owners versus renters, looking at other communities, a high ownership percentage in the city of Prescott, and looking at building permits. You can see there last 5 years from 2022 to 2025, less than 100. And I should note that, this isn't something that we just came to the city of Prescott a couple of months ago and decided to go, hey, we want to build here. This has been in works with city staff in conversations since August of 2023. And like a lot of communities, it takes time going through that process, building conceptual plans and talking through what the city would like to see, and then formally coming to a plan commission and a city council. By your own housing study, 2022-2027 housing study, there's a definite need in the city of Prescott. I won't regurgitate what's on the board, but I think we all can agree that if you did a search today on Google, Zillow, apartments.com, you're not going to find a lot. And I haven't found a lot in the last several months. And I think if you talk to the employers in the city of Prescott, and I have, they are looking for housing to really be a retention and recruiting tool for their employee base, excuse me. This parcel is really ideal in that it's an infill lot, and you don't get that very often as a city, right? The opportunity for a developer or a use to come forth where you already have all of your public infrastructure has already been put in place. It's been sitting vacant for a long period of time, and an opportunity in which to build something that fills a need for the city. I guess one of the last comments, if you look at your housing study, it had a demand of 263 units. If you look at what has been building permits, has gone out the door through 2025. you're only 31% there. I know you have a development on the south end of town that's coming online. But to meet the needs that was in the housing study that you had completed, you're still 181 units short. To wrap it up, albeit concept plan number 1 meets the requirements of an R4 without a PUD being required, I think just from the aesthetics to the adjacent landowners, not having to relocate the water main, my preference would be with the enhancements that have been made, the revisions that have been made to the plan that was originally submitted back in March, would be for the Planning Commission to favorably consider concept number 2. Any questions?
How will we deal with the water main? So, because we're talking about,
He doesn't want to deal with the water main.
that, I know, but I'm saying if we were to propose concept 1, if we wanted to go that route, what would the plan be to approach that? Would the city pay for it? Will we have a developer's agreement on it? Because that is code. We have to have access to that. So building 1 doesn't meet that.
Correct. So
Yeah.
we'd have to first look at the easement agreement
Yeah.
to stipulate what was put into place at that time. If there's some sort of stipulation, sometimes the easement agreements will actually have it laid out exactly what's supposed to happen if they do require it to be moved. Either way, as you stated, if concept 1 is the ultimate path, then we will have to figure out the direction that we'll have to go around the building and reroute that.
I kind of feel like, I don't like that you submitted a plan that you don't like, and that there is the water main issue and things that you know about, just so then we would have to approve the 3 building one. Because I feel like that's kind of.
We asked them to submit a plan
I
that we
know.
approve, so you can't really yell at him.
I'm
We
not
told
yelling
him
at
to.
him, I'm just saying, it's not ideal. It's not ideal, he even said it himself. I don't like that monstrosity of a building. Well, nobody else is gonna like that monstrosity of a building either. But then you're putting us in a hard spot because we have to approve it. And that's tough.
He's just doing his job.
I know.
Let me ask you,
I'm
this, on the 3
just
buildings,
making a point.
why open stairs, just curious? Why wouldn't you enclose them, just my question, just curiosity?
It's the plan that we built several times, Dave, and we haven't had any issues.
Probably a sound thing, I would be part of it.
Or is that fire suppression?
That's the one they have in River Falls. as far
Fire
as I remember.
suppression.
Fire suppression might be the other, you have to sprinkler probably the hallways if it was enclosed.
We have to do it as open as well.
And my, my concern at the last meeting was, the child safety, I wanted to think of that, well, if they do the sidewalk from Dexter to Borner, flashing lights for crossing, I like that. Kinda helps child safety, Either they're gonna stay on Dexter, or if they gotta come up that way, they got a back road without being in traffic. The garages was one of my questions last time, because I understood one resident that lived in rentals when she was younger, saying garages are storage units, they're not parking. That's just a thought that I had I wanted you to think about. And then, traffic, I hadn't seen the study yet, and it doesn't sound the worst. Again, I know we've had, UNFI was gonna be just crazy with traffic, and you don't hear about it, and then behind Joy Lutheran, people are gonna be running over, and I haven't heard that. The high school, it's interesting up in that corner, but it's, as they say, some people will probably divert and go down over to Borner and out that route.
But most of the problem with up there at the high school is actually Highway 10. And the only way to cure that is put a light there. And I'm no big fan of
DOT
lights.
won't do that.
No.
And they didn't do a traffic study down by me, I'm a half joke, but I got 242 units that'll probably go past my house every day now, or there's 2 exits just like this has. And, I know it's gonna happen. Am I gonna like it? Probably not. Can't buy the field behind me though. So I think the study doesn't look like there's 100 cars going in, 100 cars going out every morning and every night. That kinda helps a little bit, at least address the concerns I had back when I kinda said, let's just turn it down for now, because I wanted those issues taken care of. So I feel they did pretty good. If they keep no parking of trailers and blah, 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 that's gonna keep every parking stall open. That was another concern. And then if they, no parking in the streets, it's in their lease, or we cited, I don't know, but.
I had several concerns that I'd emailed over. So, and I know I sent it to you, Matt, I think Luke, you got it too. So, one of them was that I was wondering, expanding that traffic time, because if you actually overlap, the Wisconsin Highway 10 to actually when our traffic hours are. It'd be nice to see a reflection of that or get an estimate on it. But honestly, one of the biggest concerns I have right now is a little bit of the macroeconomic stuff that's going on. I mean, there's a significant decline going down and units aren't being finished in multiple areas. So like, what's your confidence level? Because we're also being asked to, or the council is, to approve funding. So, you know, what's the confidence level here? Because what we having, I pulled this stat last, anticipated to fall another 5% in 2026 to roughly 392 units per NAHB forecast. So that's a big concern. I'm seeing it at work. I'm seeing it everywhere. So you're gonna basically build all of your building costs. Everything's gonna be super high right now because of transportation. So what's your confidence level? Because we're asking the taxpayers to finance this.
No, that's not true.
It's not true.
Well,
I know what you mean.
TID money, I mean.
Right, TID money kind of takes
Yes,
it away
I
from
mean, and
that.
it holds that money, right, in that area for so long to redo that section, right? So that's not money that goes back to lower people's taxes for how many years? It's 15 to 20.
Depends when
20
TIF
years.
closes, yep.
Right, so that's what I'm asking. So like,
Well, they are,
it's a good
valid
question,
well,
because, I
So,
mean, we're everywhere.
Let me go to macros for you. So
Yeah.
we do, it's the benefit of having a property management company.
Yeah,
And being vertically integrated, it really gives you the pulse of what's going on in markets. And I did this for a couple of communities and just kind of laid out, you know, here's where St. Croix County, Pierce County, here's where Eau Claire County, Chippewa County, Dunn County are. True to point, East Coast, West Coast, certain areas throughout the United States, yes, there is oversaturation and you're starting to see it. Kudos to cities like the city of Eau Claire that has a gazillion building permits that have been issued. And, you know, if you want to decrease rents, just let developers beat themselves up and build a whole bunch of buildings, because sooner or later, it's a trickle effect that happens, right? So, because if a Class A new construction can get filled up and stabilized, what happens? They cut rents. Well, that pushes Class B, Class C, everyone, it's a ripple effect, right? From a standpoint of looking at, from our standpoint as a developer, we haven't built in certain metros, communities for 5-7 years for specific reasons, to your comment. Not even, that was before the macro, just looking at long-term or short-term, I should say, how many buildings are being built, right? I look at Prescott and go, River Falls for me right now, and we've built multiple times in Prescott. We're there. It's, the supply, demand is balanced out. Prescott, I think, has some opportunities, to be frank with you. And we typically have done a pretty good job of picking winners, when I say winners, cities that can absorb the units that we bring to the market. It's also the beautiful part about splitting buildings up, right? So you get a building complete, instead of Dave holding on to my final certificate of occupancy until I get all 112 units built, right? And I have to take a year, 15 months, to get it to 95% stabilization. By splitting the buildings, there's better success on our side, to be frank with you. I get a building done, it's 42 units, guess what? Inspector comes in, gives me my final certificate of occupancy, I can start leasing. As I'm working on the next building and the next building in a progression of, you know, maybe one's in frame and et
so
cetera.
you're starting with one building, are you guys phasing, or are you doing all three at the same?
We will do it, they're phased in process, right? So it's a 90 to 120 days to frame a building, and they're
Yep.
staggered.
Yep.
So
So you're gonna start stick framing, and then basically, once you do rough-ins, you're starting the next stick frame and then going around?
all three buildings in about 15 months is what you're saying? If you would do the three buildings?
it's probably going to take us closer to 20 to 24 months to finish, from the time we put a shovel in the ground. Start clearing the site.
And Matt, they don't get any TIF money till the project is complete?
Well, I think that's gonna be in the
Well,
development
it's
agreement.
Correct,
isn't
it's a pay-as-you-go, so they are, it's completely contingent on the success of the developer and them finishing the project.
So he doesn't get tax dollars. We collect it, but they don't get it until it's completed. Correct, okay. And to Bailey's point somewhat, yes, the tax money, they pay tax like the rest of us, same rate, same everything, we collect it. And so the base of the property, 750,000, we collect that tax, we can run the city with that. The building improvement tax, the tax for the building, goes to help pay the TIF. So they'll, you know, and we don't borrow any money, they're gonna borrow the money, and then as they, once they're completed, the TIF money goes back to help them pay the loan off. Is
Well,
basically what it is.
If I'm not wrong, the building itself is at 90% too, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
you mean the taxes?
Tax-wise.
Yeah, split 90/10.
Right, and so,
So we are getting something, and I think.
A little bit, right.
We've seen before was something in the neighborhood in 20 years of 555,000 or something, give or take a few. So we are gonna get some tax along the whole way.
and I think the intent of a TIF, it used to be more for commercial industrial, is they wouldn't come if you didn't help them, assist them getting started.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna get a $15 million building sitting here. Now, we don't get to collect it right away, but guess what? That 20 years from now, we will have a $15 million. And if they didn't get the money, maybe we wouldn't have that building to help us, okay? Part of the reason the TIF is to set up is you bring in more residents. More residents hopefully would spend more money in the city, helps the city's economy. Part of it is UNFI. We got people coming from Spring Valley to work here. Maybe they would live here again. And then, as your point, which I've learned over the years, the school might not get taxed from this because, you know, it goes to pay the TIF, but if they can get more students, they get so much a student that ends up walking through that door, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, the joint board, the school approved the TIF, knowing that that might help their student enrollment, Matt?
Correct, it was
And
approved
their
today.
state funding?
Their state funding, but that's what it is.
Which is 500 and whatever a kid.
It's a chunk, I know that. That's why they want the enrollment to increase, but. So, just, the TIF is more than we're borrowing them money or that we're giving them a break. It's to help the bigger economy is what the intent was that I've learned over the years of being in government.
I think if we took this on, I don't know what we have planned for sewer, but I think that was kind of an alarming number where I was like, man, we're getting really close to that. Like, if we have, like, I don't know what it's gonna take to, like, how many more developments are we gonna have before we start really pushing that? I was kind of surprised at how close we were for capacity, I guess. So it was one thing, like, if we do this, I think that's something that's
They
gonna be.
did show us that.
Yeah, I know.
Numbers.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I didn't realize like how close we were.
Oh, we've been that close for like 20 years.
I didn't realize it was that close. I knew the water, but.
I don't know if this ain't quite connected.
No,
I mean,
water, we're fine.
Could I just add one thing about sewer? I think the biggest issue with the sewer capacity that we have is really industrial based. It's
Yeah.
really, we have 150 acres that we want to develop into a business park. If we have one user who's even 10 acres, but they're using 300,000 gallons a day in a manufacturing facility, we're not going to be able to take them on. So that's the point of, and really the issue we're having is just, it's not the residential. Obviously, if we get enough residential, that will accumulate to a point, but it's really, how do we develop 150 acres of business park in a way that we're not taking on large scale manufacturers, which is a little bit unfortunate because there's also the ones that have, usually bring with a lot of jobs, and decent paying jobs with it.
The only thing I think of, it jumps in my mind too, is can we require them to have like a minimum, whether their assessed value dips or not, we require they pay a minimum rate of tax, Matt?
We could require a minimum assessed value that they have to, they can.
Which, you know, if we figured, if they tell us 15 million, then it's gonna take them 20 years or 10 years to pay off, collect that money. We'd say, okay, we wanna guarantee that you will be paying on a $15 million assessed value, even if it dipped to 13
We
million.
have to do that because of what's going on right now. Like, there's just a lot.
So that's that
A lot of
safety,
signals, a lot of flags right now.
that would be the
Yeah.
safety, and you understand that, I take it, Trevor?
It's typical.
Yeah, I
Okay,
don't
so,
remember.
so that, I would recommend the council think about saying, hey, when they negotiate, you gotta guarantee tax on a $15 million building. Whether the
Regardless
building
if the
falls down to
assessment-
13 million or
right,
not.
yeah.
That's just my thought to protect the city.
So for concept 2, what was the variance? It was the,
Concept 2 was
what am I reading?
They have 3 buildings on one.
So,
That's right.
and I think the advantage, and the reason they wanna do concept 2 is two reasons. One is the water main going down the middle.
You don't have to pay to remove.
You know, they could do a lot split and put that water main there and put one in each lot. And then number 2, like you say, you can start renting a lot sooner if you can do one building as a as they go. The number of units is actually less with option number 2, if you noticed.
I did.
It's 106 instead of 112.
Plus it's 3 stories instead of 4.
So,
Appreciate the height profile.
right. Does 4 stories look better than 3? 3 look better than 4?
3 looks better than 4.
Submitted it
Oh, you're saying
as
it's
a
more
4-story.
Sure.
I don't like that. That bothers me.
Never mind, I thought it was the. Never mind. I got confused.
The 3 concept plan.
I guess again, my only comment is gonna be that I don't like how we're getting well, you gotta approve one or the other, and the one we don't really like as the investors, we don't really like that, but you guys have to do it, and I just don't like how that works.
It is what it is.
It is what it is, and it's just shitty.
That's a high density lot. What do you suppose would go there if not this?
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't
Okay.
know.
That's why we zoned it that way.
Fair?
So we as the commission only make recommendations, council does the final.
Correct.
What does this board think looks better? One big 4-story building, which I see only one thing that might get caught on it, but that's not for me to say right now. Otherwise, you got 3 buildings.
There's a few things with concept plan that I think the water main's gonna be the big one.
Well, yeah, that was,
Because that falls underneath 2 different, you have Wisconsin Administrative Code NR 811.68, section 2, and then NR 811.70, and then we have SPS 382.4.
and I was looking at a fire issue, but
I was thinking
That
fire
one.
issue too.
Oh, because 4-story.
Yeah.
Well, that and can't reach the backside with a 300-foot hose, so there has to be a road going across. That's what Dave was talking before.
Did fire review this already?
it's only a concept, so they don't look
Okay,
at it
no,
yet.
that's right.
I've always thought that the 3 looked a lot better than a 4-foot or 4-story building sitting in front anyway.
I agree.
I do like the rec center they put in the one concept. I thought that was neat.
And kind of a bonus for the residents
That's right.
of this building.
Concept 1.
Probably why there's more units.
they had that.
Pay for it.
Yeah,
There is one concept too.
oh, there is.
So that's why there's a 42 unit and a 40.
Oh, two units for a little rec room? Okay.
Oh, nice.
Okay, no more questions for Trevor?
Nope.
Okay, so then, the next item on the agenda is consideration of possible action on previously tabled items related to the proposed development, 1452 Glenwood Drive. Matt?
I think we are still looking for the recommendation from Plan Commission regarding the 2 concept plans.
Okay.
Something over here.
And I will just add, I mean, Plan Commission, that is your authority to look at every single zoning code, just like we did in 2025, and if you would like to make changes, to your point, if there's something you don't like, that is something that can be done. Obviously, once we get to a point where a developer knows the rule book in terms of our zoning code and they come in and are willing to meet it, it's not something we can then go back and change at that point.
I do think it'd be interesting, and I know we're gonna talk about the zoning map later, is to maybe take like another look at that one more time before we didn't finalize that yet, right? We have like one more, that's a comprehensive plan one that we're going through?
Could you speak louder?
Yeah, so we had a zoning map that we were reviewing as a planning committee for a while now.
The future land use map?
Yeah, that one. So that one's still under review because we're reviewing the comprehensive plan.
Yeah,
we need to
I
review.
think,
Okay.
I think Josh was hoping that we'd wrap
Finalize.
it up and set a public hearing tonight, but we can look
Yeah.
at it again.
No, it's fine. And I think we've looked at it actually pretty well, and we actually identified areas where I feel like high residential really belongs. I just didn't know if we had any, I need to go back and see, do we have any other random pockets of the high residential? That was the only thing I was curious about, but anyways.
We can, I guess.
That's a separate topic.
tonight.
I just,
Also, I
To your
believe
point,
when we
Matt, yeah.
We discussed that, we were talking
Yeah.
about, you could really change it anytime, we're kind of forecasting out 5 years, so
Yeah.
we'll revisit this before we know it, and we could take on something individually, I would think, out of that.
But we are looking for a decision here.
Well, it'd be nice to know if concept one, who's paying for it? Who's paying for moving the
Well,
water?
that's in the developer agreement,
Yeah.
as a concept.
So a concept plan, I mean, obviously, number two looks a lot better than number one.
Plus, I like the 3-story instead of 4 for fire and whatnot.
I don't think
Plus,
fire would approve it.
I'd say we go with one then.
I don't think fire can say anything.
Well, they can
Yeah,
give
they can.
recommendation, yeah, they.
This whole board is trying to say they want concept two, so I'm gonna make a motion to approve concept two.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve concept 2 moving forward. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Just don't like it.
Number 2, so based on the tabled items, now that we have moved forward with the recommendation of concept plan number 2, we have tabled from last meeting the site plan review, the resolution for the certified survey map, and discussion on the future proposed park development location. So basically, with that being the case, if you are wanting to move forward with concept plan number 2, the recommendation before you would be to approve those items since they are going to meet the standards of concept plan number 2 that was just reviewed.
Can you say that one more time, Matt? Sorry.
So, concept plan number 2, which is the council's or plan commission's recommendation, you tabled from last meeting the resolution for the site plan, the CSM, and then the future proposed park development location. So the plan is now the same as what was already reviewed from last meeting, so you have the, so you tabled these, so the
I
option
thought we
is.
denied it.
You denied the PUD, which is
Okay.
at council
Okay.
pending your decision tonight.
Okay.
The site plan, the certified survey map, and the park was all tabled from last meeting.
I make a motion to approve the resolution approving the site plan for the Bluffs multifamily development at 1452 Glen Ridge Drive.
Second it.
we have a motion and a second to approve a resolution approving the site plan for the Bluffs. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Me, opposed.
Okay, then we gotta continue on here.
So the next one would be the certified.
I make a motion to approve a resolution approving the certified survey map for the Bluffs multifamily development.
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for resolution approving the certified survey map for the Bluffs multifamily development. Any discussion on that motion? Not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
And so the last item that was before you was the recommendation at the future proposed park location. So just to give you, apologize, it's not in this, but essentially what was being discussed is when the school district was discussing this with the developer, they had given the option of potentially, instead of developing the park here, looking to develop it across the street on school district property. So just getting a recommendation if the plan commission had a preference between the two.
I'd rather
think-
put it behind the water tower.
I'd rather have it be on
Escape
city
plan?
land.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
skate park
versus
area.
school
Is it-
land,
it's- yeah,
absolutely.
And then put parking on the school land for their
No.
ball fields.
They already have parking there.
Enough?
No,
But
not
Double- double
remotely.
it.
Triple.
What is the parking plan for that park then, if that were
They'll have to.
they would fit on the lot?
You don't have enough parking.
It's a-
No,
it's a
for the
neighborhood
park itself,
park.
it'd just be a
No parking
neighborhood
spots
park, so there wouldn't be, just like
you got
Sunset Park. or
Shane
something.
Circle and them combined, basically.
So what are we looking to say here?
Just
Not on school
recommend.
property?
What if somebody does want to go play at that?
Recommend that the potential park goes on by the water tower is basically what we're recommending.
So there's-
So I make that motion.
I make, second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to put the park development on city property by the water tower. Any discussion on that motion?
That's still talking about a $75,000 ad by you guys, correct?
Park dedication?
Park
Yeah.
dedication.
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
That would be a park in lieu, park.
Payment in lieu of parkland.
Park, plus we also have to pay the park impact fees.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Don't love it.
Next item on the agenda is facade improvement program, recommendation of financing for preferred projects to the city council. Luke?
Thank you. Mayor, thank you, Plan Commission.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, very aware.
Are we allowed to ask a question?
No,
Why?
because it's not on the agenda. There's no room for
Well,
public.
write it in. I got a question, one question.
Sorry. We had a public hearing, Joe, and
Yeah,
that was taken into
listen to
consideration.
There's some new issues.
But I just want to make the comment, just so everybody understands, like, we have set zoning code. We cannot set zoning code and then be like, no, we can't do something if you meet all the zoning code. That's how zoning and planning works in every community, in every city, across this entire state, across
So
this
it's
entire.
going under PUD, right?
Now it is, but essentially, we could have said concept plan number 1 and they would have met it, so that's the whole
But they
point.
wouldn't have because of the water main yet. So unless we came to an
If they
agreement on the
would've paid
water
for
main,
it.
right? So unless we came to an
This is
agreement on the
a
water main.
concept plan, the concept
I
plan has nothing
know.
to do with the water main.
But I'm saying the water main, if we want to talk about law, if we want to talk law,
Right,
that
but they would
doesn't
have had to
mean,
pay for it, they would have moved it and paid
Correct.
for it, right?
but if they're, so, let's just play devil's advocate. If they're asking for financing now, then how would that, I mean, to move a water main, that's not cheap.
Yes, so it could have completely been that this will be an overburdensome
Yeah.
cost for the developer.
But
and
I
we know
just
that,
want to
so we'll approve
clarify,
concept plan.
I just want to clarify, our
Right.
zoning code, if it was meeting zoning, we wouldn't be here. If it's not meeting zoning, it comes in front for a PUD request. And the PUD is basically, because it's not meeting zoning, they're asking for a variance, correct?
Every site plan has to come before plan commission per our city code.
So for the PUD, is it meeting the zoning code, yes or no?
For the PUD,
If-
it is not,
if-
because it's asking for 3 building plans rather than.
Yes. And then for concept 1, on paper, it meets it, but then you run into the issue legally with the water main because of
Correct.
Wisconsin law.
But again,
So I'm just explaining, that's all I'm
Right.
doing. And because we're saying like, we can't say this, that, I just want to clarify that number 1, it's coming under PUD and it's coming underneath variance because they have more buildings than they're supposed to.
Concept
Number
2.
1 would have been held up because of, unless we came to an agreement because of the water main.
I don't know that, because we
Unless,
didn't
I'm
select
just
that, we didn't
saying,
go down that road.
until that would have been an open issue, correct? That would have been an open
would have
action
been
that
the-
would have had to been addressed.
That would have been the number 1 issue that needed to
Eventually.
be resolved.
I just want to make sure we're clear on that because it's not like, it's all meeting code. I just want to make sure like.
But it is all meeting code. The water main issue would have had to have been resolved, but that's.
And who's,
That's not a
exactly,
zoning issue.
and who's paying for it. So that would have been an
It's a-
open issue that would have had to been resolved in order to develop the property.
Correct.
Correct.
I,
That's all I wanted to say.
I'm just gonna make a comment on that. I feel like it's a tit for tat, like, it's either this or this, and we don't really get a choice, and I don't like being put in that position. And that's
That
kinda
is our-
crappy.
That is our position.
I know, but you know what?
Okay,
I work for the people of Prescott too. Like, I have to listen to everybody, so I get it.
okay. Luke, please.
Thank you. So for the facade improvement program, all the scores have been tabulated. So just a reminder of what the facade improvement program is. It is a 6-year program from 2025 to 2030 with $50,000 allocated per year for a total of $300,000. So this was designated through tax increment district number 4. And as a result, they are limited to C1 commercial districts or the downtown riverfront area. So all the awarded grants are on a reimbursement basis after the completion of the project. So for the applicant that scored the highest, that was 235 and 237 Broad Street. This was the Prescott Historical Society. So their project is to scrape the front windows, glaze all the areas in need, prime rusted areas, repaint on the side of the buildings, railings and awnings. They're going to restore the bridge side of the building, remove the information sign and fill mounting holes, and then the painting of the window and the door. So this had a total project cost of $24,000 for the grant request of $12,000. They're estimating they'd start in April 2026 and ending in December of 2026. And then this had an average score of 35 throughout all the Plan Commission members. The second place applicant was 206 Broad Street. So this is the restoring of the character-defining facade elements with historic arch windows, historically appropriate entry door systems, and commercial-grade lighting and benches. This had a total project cost of $135,000 and a grant request of $50,000. So the average score of this one was 31.8. The third place applicant came closely behind that second place at 144 Broad Street. This had a total project cost of $127,000 and $645. And they had a grant request of $50,000 in total. They estimated they would start in spring of 2026 and end in fall of 2026. And just a reminder, this is the project that is proposing historic windows, brick replacement, and they would repair the brick on the north side. And then they would also be replacing the windows and doors in addition to the siding in the front of the building. So this had an average score of 31.3. The fourth place applicant was 209 Broad Street. This had a total project cost of $17,243.19 for a grant request of $8,621. The goal of this project was to restore the front and the sides of the building. It has an estimated start date of May 1st and an end date of July 15th. This had an average score of 30.6. And then the final one was the Muddy Waters 231 and 227 Broad Street. This had a total project cost of $65,000 and a grant request of $32,500. And then the average score was 30.6. So this is an overview of all the scores together. The first place, the Prescott Historical Society, scored much higher than all the other ones at 35. And then the following applicants, 206 Broad Street and 144 Broad Street, had that 31.8 and 31.3 respectively. And then the final ones were 209 Broad Street and 231 and 227 Broad Street. So with that, the program has a total of $50,000 allocated for the 2026 grant cycle. Due to the funds left over from the 2025 program, an additional $8,710.50 is available for this year's program. And so, if you guys want to discuss some possible options.
What's the address number 2?
Number 2 was 206 Broad Street.
206.
Yep.
I would go with the top two.
Well,
One and
Got
two.
50,000.
there isn't quite enough money.
Well,
Do- do we-
I'd offer it.
Do we own the Heritage Center, the building
We
itself?
sold it for
No.
$1.
What did you say?
We sold it for $1.
Historical Society owns it.
But it's still kind of the face of Prescott.
Well, that's why I was
It's
wondering.
the first building you see when you come into town.
It does kind of look like it.
It looks pretty
Dave, what did you
terrible.
mean offer?
Well, you go to number one, they get 12. Now you got 36,000 left, if I'm not mistaken.
Plus
No,
27.
46,000 left, right? And then you, right? Because you got 8 plus 50.
58,700.
You have 8,000.
So you got 58 minus 12 would give you 46.
You're including the 8.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'd offer 46 to 206 Broad Street. They might say for $4,000, we're gonna do it anyway.
You're damn right, they will.
Why wouldn't you offer it to them?
Free money.
If they turn it down, then we just go down the line from there.
We'll just go to the
That's
next
my
one.
opinion.
I like that
I
idea.
think it's a good idea.
It
Great
kind of sucks,
idea.
because, I mean, if you look through them, you're like, yeah, they all seem awesome.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
You're throwing dice at which one's gonna win, really.
So you need a
They
motion?
were all great projects.
Yep. Yeah.
I motion that we award to the number 1 and 2 ranking. And number 2, of course, isn't gonna get quite full 50, they'll get 46 something, but I think we'll let them make that call.
Let this money build, so we could be like, yeah, just do it.
Yeah.
I second.
All right.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to go with the Historical Society and 206 Broad Street, is that correct?
Correct.
Is there any discussion on that motion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Thank you for all participating and getting it in on time. Now we have the comprehensive plan updates. Luke?
So yeah, Josh is here to talk about the plan commission here, or not the plan commission, the comprehensive plan here.
So this is just something, there's a statement, pass those out, that would be great. Kind of we're to the final stages of our comprehensive plan. Obviously, we still have a couple of steps to go. The public hearing is one, but as you do kind of wrap things up, you do a final walkthrough, if you will. And as I was going through some things, I noticed some things that statutorily we should probably be a little bit tighter on. So one of the things is having a goals, objectives, program, and policy statement that it's almost like a vision statement. It's very wordy, I understand. It kind of covers a lot of what the original goals and objectives were in the first chapter. So I kind of put everything together, and this was kind of what we came up with to incorporate into the issues and opportunities chapter. The rest of the time, I don't know if you need me to read all this, you guys can read it, but it's just kind of just overall arching things, talking about, protecting the environment, focusing on utilizing existing infrastructure, trying to avoiding urban sprawl, things like that. Just generally good planning concepts that reflect what we've already talked about. The rest of the time, I'd like to just touch on some of the changes. So I think you guys have had this for a little while now, this full draft plan. And let's see if I can zoom in on this a little bit. So there's just a number of things that I highlighted that I wanted to just touch on, that so I'm not missing anything. And it starts with the issues and opportunities chapter here. So this first item is just what we talked about was the projections. The number of the household projections and the population projections were going to be based on 5% per decade. And so that's what we ended up updating all the numbers to. If you recall, last month we had looked at some of the American Community Survey information and were kind of stunned by the numbers that they had in there. And they had already shown a steep increase in the number of households. Well, we went back and looked at the census data and then re-added the number of permits that have been added since that time. So we kind of manually did what we feel are reasonable household projections as of today, or as of 2025, which were about 2,012 households, housing units or households. And then from there, we took the 2025 population, which was, let's see here. The actual population, which was, why am I not finding it in here? Oh, 4,459. That's what the Department of Administration says is the current estimated population of Prescott.
I just have a quick question. So last week when we talked about that, what was that? So we had grown, or we had already exceeded the number of
The
people?
numbers in the American Community Survey that came out for 2024 had shown that we had already exceeded. We were at 2,200 and some odd housing units. And that seemed odd to me, but I wanted to go back and look at it. And talking to city staff, we looked at the census numbers from 2020 and said, well, let's just add the number of building permits that have been added since then. And so we kind of came up with our own manual system, but we came up with 2,012. So it was 200 less units than what we showed. And that 200 units is what caused me to concern last time.
Because we were short.
Well, we showed 200 more units than what we actually had.
Okay.
And it was a big spike, and I was like, well, if we already show that we're beating our projections for 20 years today, that doesn't really work. So we went back and kind of retweaked the numbers. And again, these are all estimates, projections based on the best available data. We've talked, the Department of Administration still does not have household projections done from the 2020 census. So here we sit. So we're kind of a little bit.
Not shocked.
No, I'm not either. And I don't blame them. There's a lot of work. We got the census data back late. There's still census data that is not available yet for us 5 years later. So I hope that they do a better job in 2030 for my profession, but for others as well. So what that ended up doing to us for a projection is between 2025 and 2050, we estimate 395 new households to be added. When we show that even in the short term, we've got about 300 housing units proposed right now, or 350, that doesn't seem too out of whack. Now, I know, Bailey, you talked about macroeconomics could change a lot of things and all that.
That's an understatement right now. Yeah.
However, I think given the other things that were mentioned previously, the positive things that Prescott has going for it, I do, and the proximity to the Twin Cities, and I do think it's reasonable to assume a growth in population.
I don't disagree with that. I think people are going to move out of the cities.
Yeah.
I think people are going to start moving out of the cities more and go more to suburbs and rurals, honestly, is what is already, the trend's already happening. And so our population is not really increasing that much, but we might increase the population here. I'm talking like generally, like US. Like,
Yeah, statewide, I mean.
Birth rate and all that kind of stuff, down. So I think we're seeing growth because people don't want to live in the cities anymore. They want to move out.
In Wisconsin, in the last estimate, I mean, they were one of the few states that actually, in the Midwest, that added population. So
everybody's leaving.
So I think it's a reasonable, again, we're guessing, but when you look back at the historical population projections from 2010, a lot of these things, they showed 4,980 people by 2040. And we're projecting by 2040, 4,907 people. So we're still less than the 2010 projections, but we're above what the pessimistic projections were from the DOA, the recent DOA projections.
Yeah.
So we have to do we could use the DOA numbers, but they show, like I think I said, the 2020 projections show a drop in 200 people from what we're at right now, which I don't think is all that reasonable. So if that's the case, what are we doing here? We don't have to plan for sewer, wastewater upgrades.
I think it's going to get tougher too as we go on, just because we have that decline in population. I mean, if you got the boomers that have a billion kids, but that's not really happening anymore. So now you're talking about, if like I don't have children, right? So I'm not replacing me and somebody else. So now you're talking about just shifts of your population based on either environmental or cultural things going on. So it's going to be tougher as we go forward.
It will, and you're great point. And you're going to experience a different type of population growth.
Correct.
Because it's going to be people moving out here. You're not going to have the natural natural growth rate from families. It's going to be people saying, I'm done with the cities, or I want to move to Wisconsin because of the climate, or whatever reason.
I was just interviewing statisticians that are going to intern for me for the summer, and some of them work for the state doing a project, something similar to this. So yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, and so I think, we don't want to belabor this, but I think even like St. Croix, the state has to do their job to project all over the place, every county. And the St. Croix County projections were much lower than what St. Croix County is actually adjusting them for, because that's just, we know what the pressure is like.
Yeah.
So I think Prescott's just kind of, River Falls had it, as was mentioned before. They're a little saturated now, so you're going to benefit from that in that growth. So that, again, we're doing our best to project this. So we don't know exactly where things will lie, but we're, so I just want to point out, those are the main changes than what we talked about last week, and that's why these things are highlighted. The other items to mention, we had employee forecasts here, right here. We didn't have these in here. These are just basically from a workforce development area. They don't boil these down to municipalities or even counties. It's a multi-county region that we get this information from. But again, looking at statutes, we should have some kind of employment forecast. Just shows that 8.3% for goods-producing industries are expected over the between now and 2032. They don't project it any further than that, so we're a little limited. And then service-producing industries about 9.5%. That could be anywhere. That could be St. Croix. That could be Dunn. That could be any of those counties, Eau Claire County, but that's just what we have to go with. And then the next, the agricultural, cultural, natural resources chapter, just had a couple policies to add. I think consider adding a requirement to the subdivision code to require developers to provide an escrow account for trees. That was talked about, but I didn't add it to the draft previously. And then the cultural one is to continue to identify and mark historical.
Trees are dead.
What's that?
I said I like that. All of our trees are dead. The hypervert trees are dying and telling the ash trees and stuff, so I like that one.
Continue to identify and mark historical sites, buildings, and historical events, and consider supporting preservation efforts. That was just some clarifying language that I think I wanted to add for the statutes. Then housing, just again pointing where things are at. So some of the statutes, they reference that each chapter has this information, but you could point to it if it's another chapter. So I don't want to duplicate the same information, but just wanted to reference that this is the housing chapter, but reference the household projections were included in issues and opportunities chapter 2, which are also required there. And then the location of housing we identify in the future land use map in chapter 8. So. And just a couple policy changes. Update the housing study to get a better understanding of the housing stock and needs in the community every 5 years. So we talked, I think your housing study was done in '22, so into next year, be looking at, a good idea to do another one, because you're gonna have a lot of change. I mean, not only is the 5 years important, but the influx of new housing projects make a big change in what's going on in the community, so it's good to have that done, at least updated every 5 years. You don't have to do a full-fledged study, but, and then consider utilizing the housing programs identified in this chapter to maintain and/or rehabilitate the local housing stock for persons of all income levels, ages, and persons with special needs. Again, kind of covering our what's for language in the statutes. And talking about identifying and evaluating existing sites for repurpose, redevelopment for housing, including low-income and moderate-income housing. And then utilize the future land use map to identify opportunities for future housing. So just kind of clarifying things that we're going to do, and then this one is just again adding some information about the workforce profile, workforce data that we just didn't have before, and more regional information. I wish they had more state information, or location or site specific information. You'd have to do your own market study for that, but. And I added some information about a redevelopment. Just as well, identify areas for future commercial and industrial development as well as redevelopment sites, which we do have one in our future land use map. We've talked about it a little bit. Those 3 blocks in the heart of the city here. And next we'll get into transportation. These are so just adding things like, addressing ADA accessibility for bike infrastructure, which is important. And then supporting the development of a taxi service to meet the needs of residents, including those with disabilities. And then we added 3 more, because there's a section in there that didn't used to be in there when we did our last comprehensive plan. So you guys got to go back and check to see if statutes have changed, but things that talk about consider regulating the use of electric scooters, electric personal assistant mobility devices on streets, trails, and sidewalks. So we have a micro mobility section in the statutes, which didn't used to be in there. But if you see, like in the, I don't know if your neighborhood, but my neighborhood, I get all these kids running these little electric scooters and things like that with no helmets, and they drive around pretty fast. So it's these e-bikes and things like that are not very well regulated. So something to think about. And support the efforts to maintain and improve local docking facilities along the rivers, so again, transportation related. And identify truck routes when looking at future transportation projects.
So we want to add regulation to that?
It's consider, just for a safety standpoint. I haven't seen anything done locally, but I've seen what I've seen in my neighborhood, which I think is.
Oh, I have coworkers that have had plenty of kids with their teeth through the bottom lip, because of the e-bikes, but it's probably.
When I was a kid, they had like crazy toys at the city parks that were super.
If we could stop the kids with the dirt bikes in town now, with the real
alive.
dirt bikes on the road, that'd be cool.
That's already illegal though.
Well, they're already doing
Yeah, I mean, laws are only good if people follow them, right? But it's still having something where, if you got a neighborhood with kids are flying around and you can call the police, they can do something about it. Right now, there's nothing we can do. I mean.
The electric personal assistive mobility devices on the street, that's like a little thing you see at the grocery store?
So even a rascal scooter, I guess.
My mother-in-law rented one when we went on vacation, and it had like 2 modes, slow, which would be 5, or fast. You know, I was going like 40 miles an hour. I was scared as hell.
Well, like some communities limit those things on sidewalks, and sometimes you can't have motorized vehicles on trailers or trails, and those
Yeah.
things are not really well defined what they fall under, so. And again, it's considered, you don't have to do that, but it's just something if you get a neighborhood meeting where people are upset about something, you'd have something to go on. School district, you know, and just a note that the schools aren't near capacity, as we just talked about earlier. I know the school district is looking at consolidating, you know, or did they already do that? I think there's that.
27.
You know, we have a meeting the 15th of April.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is one of the things, if they do decide before we adopt it, we can always kind of tweak
That's
things
for
a
the
little
middle
bit.
school? Yeah.
So this is something that I think is just it's part of the statutory requirement, and we do it kind of all pieced together in different sections, but I thought it'd be good to have it as a table that just kind of lists existing facility summary. So, you know, you talk about your sanitary sewer service, your water systems, water towers, stormwater management. So these are just things that we just kind of consolidated that we had in the plan already, but have it in a table, so it's easier to find a nicer summary. So, and then we also did that for the future needs. So these are all items that we talk about in the utilities and community facilities section, anyways. And same with the future needs summary. So this just kind of is all in one spot to find that information versus searching around for each subsection. And let's see, getting close down here. And then these were additional items, just, I think we had talked about some of these things, and for some reason I just did not add them into the previous draft plan, but coordinate with the area utility, and I know this one we did talk about, and I can't remember how we solved it, but coordinated with area utility providers to plan and implement local renewable energy systems with microgrids for emergency services to serve all areas of the city. Does that look correct?
Do you know
Yeah.
how long that meeting's gonna be if we want to bring in windmills?
We don't want windmills, but there are other options though that are already being implemented in other places, and we're doing a lot of the technology behind some of it. So I think that's something that is definitely we should look at from like a public safety perspective, especially like if our power goes down, you have the pump stations. Like I don't know if we have a generator.
We have generators for all the pumps, the
for all
wells
the
and
pumps.
stuff.
Yeah, for every single one.
Yeah.
2 of the 3.
2 of the 3.
Hope I don't live by the third.
2 of the 3.
Which one don't we, which one don't we have a?
Well, 4. Doesn't have a generator yet.
But water treatment plant.
Well, that,
The well 3 does, yes.
Yeah, but the plant does.
No, 2 does.
But the plant doesn't, right?
The sewer treatment plant
Sewage street.
does not.
Yeah. So I think that is something worthwhile to investigate. There's a lot of more effective and efficient other than windmill and EV and all that crap.
well, they got there's wind fans, there's all kinds of stuff nowadays.
Wind's worthless.
Thermal.
Sorry, I'll say it.
By the time you pay, by the time
it's-
it pays for itself, it's junk.
And it's actually, it's not a good positive.
Spoken by an electrician.
Well, it's the.
Well, I was an electrician too, so yeah.
Well, in those certain facilities and there are certain megawatt, you don't really have a say, and it really doesn't benefit your community anyway. So you're talking things that can impact, like,
Hydrogen, you can run off, like right now, that's a big thing right now.
yeah.
Because it's
Oh, yeah.
lower cost and effective.
Infinite supply too.
Yeah.
It's a lot cheaper.
Well, I always thought that
Oh, it
was a
is.
better
It's a lot cheaper. I can
idea
make one
for
right in
cars
my
than
garage.
electric anyway.
Oh, it is.
It's the most prevalent substance.
It is, it's water. It's
Yeah.
electrolysis.
All right.
All right, continue at number 13, so we, thank you.
We only get off a couple ways.
You just
you know.
gotta say squirrel, and that'll get everyone's attention.
Well, it's good discussion. I think
I know
these
it
are all
is.
very valid things. So continue to maintain the city solid waste, compost, and recycling services and programs. Continue the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. Support efforts to develop the Cooley River Trail system. Support efforts to expand broadband fiber services to the entire community. Explore creating wind and solar regulations. We touched on that a little bit. You only have so much you can do. Maintain existing levels of land available in the public cemeteries. Continue relying on nearby communities for healthcare services. and explore opportunities to expand childcare services in the city.
The only one I got beef with is 17 because it's not cost effective.
What is
Those
that?
But it
windows
says
are-
creating regulation.
Creating regulation becoming more common because power generation are becoming more common.
Well, it's not
and less
cost, it says
expensive.
less expensive, and it
Yeah.
is less expensive than it was 20 years ago. But
And it
it's
doesn't
not,
mean we have to
Still-
do anything.
Yeah, okay. I'm
Would-
fine with creating regulations saying don't do
do
it.
you want me to get rid of less
Fiber?
expensive, or just even,
I mean, we can create regulation. I think it would be like don't invite wind.
Doesn't Old
Oh,
Town,
not
doesn't Old
one.
Town have fiber service?
I wouldn't.
I
There's
don't invite
zero
wind.
chance you should invite wind in here. Zero.
Like last week.
Just take out wind and she'd be happy. How?
Well, I-
And solar's pretty,
yeah.
unless you're doing it at your house.
But you're regulating it.
I don't really need to regulate somebody's house for
You could
solar.
regulate it saying we don't want it. That's regulating it.
Well,
Well, you can't, I mean,
Yeah.
once you
I mean,
get to a
if
certain
people-
point, but we can get rid of all the editorial part and
I
just say,
think commercial solar farms would be the big thing, but we don't
Yeah.
have, and the
We don't have
Sears.
any land.
Sears,
Let's go to the business part.
I mean, if someone came with enough money, you think that we would consider that?
all right,
Look at us, we're going with this, you know, we're going with a building that we
put
didn't
that on your
like.
top of your building.
we may tweak that one for help out Bailey.
That's what I would make it.
I'm just saying, it's downfalling.
You know,
So then the next one, the land use chapter, and we'll touch on the land use map in a second here. This one is just really more of an explanation of kind of the development pattern throughout. So these two paragraphs really just cover where growth has happened, both residential, commercial, and industrial, how many lots we have allocated to those, and so on, different land use categories. Land use prices really have jumped up quite a bit. So these are, with Wisconsin Department of Revenue, they do statement of assessment. So these are just assessed values, not even your market values.
There's like so many red flags on these numbers right now.
What do you mean?
Just like no, the numbers are right, but just like the fact that now we're up here.
Yeah.
This is why I was bringing up macro things, because like, this can only go on for so long because it's not sustainable.
Correct. And again, these are just assessed values. I don't know what your equalization ratio is for.
God, I don't even want to know.
It's dropped below 90 this last year again.
So these are another 10%, probably higher, give or take. And these are not sales; these are just values in the city. So, just wanted to add that, just because then you look at even 2020 numbers, comparing with 2025, and then it's just good benchmarks to see what's going to happen in 2030, 2040.
Yeah.
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 I'm not making a comment on what's going to happen. I'm just saying it's just something to look at. And then these are the the future growth projections that we did based on. So what we do is we take the number of residential parcels and look at how many acres is involved in that, and then compare how many housing units are there, and then look at how many acres per household unit there are. So it's about a quarter acre per housing unit spread throughout the city. That includes single family, multifamily, and so on. So we get, this is how many square feet are allocated currently per housing unit. And then we kind of project that out based on how many new households are needed. And then for some reason I have these numbers wrong. I think I didn't update this chart when I updated the other one. So I'll take a look at that again. I apologize.
Because he said the additional homes, because he was quoting that this evening, so the additional homes we needed was like 200 and something, he was saying?
He had, from the housing study, said there was going to be from, I think, between now and 2027?
Was it 200 something?
I don't recall what it is.
Yeah, you're correct.
I thought it was like 212 or something.
Yeah.
I'll double check
It's
these
about
housing.
the same amount as the.
But in the previous chapter, I had 395 units, so that's why I'm wondering if I missed this. But I'll recalculate that. I just might not have went back and updated after we updated. But anyways, so then we prorate that based on, we have X amount of housing unit or household acreage, we have X amount of commercial and X amount of industrial. And then we just say, going forward, we're gonna need this many households, acres of housing. We're gonna need a similar prorated amount of commercial and industrial. It's just a way to identify how much acreage you anticipate going through. And if there's enough acreage within either your planning area or the city, then we don't foresee a need to either annex or beyond plan further. And so really it's just showing that this is where the table kind of meets the requirements or meets that for all of the different uses. So your residential, commercial, and industrial are gonna add to acreage, and then you're gonna usually take that from your agricultural. That's just usually your most lowest hanging fruit land that can be developed readily. So again, I'll double check the housing on that. And then this was the bulleted list that we kind of went in pretty detailed, the type of density, the areas that they match up with the future land use map. And so we'll get to that. So this is the table the map that we had looked at pretty extensively and identified different areas for future growth, redevelopment. So, excuse me, I need water. So I don't know if when you had this at home or had the chance to look at this, if there were any questions or changes.
No passion.
Huh?
I don't mind these like random pockets of
Zoom
that
out,
density.
sorry, yeah.
I think some of them already have like apartment buildings on them, not 3-story with, however many units in it, but like we have the ones down by the ball fields. Do those get zoned as higher residential?
Those ones,
Which ones
those
are
are the
those?
ones that we kept at 3 stories.
The ones over by the ball fields?
Well, field are only
So-
2, aren't they?
So are
They
you
might only be
talking,
2 now, but I think they could be 3.
They could be 2, but I think they are 2.
That's what I'm
Yeah, okay,
wondering.
fine, yeah.
which area? I'm sorry.
So like if you go down to the ball fields where,
What is it, fire hall?
yeah, what street is that?
That's Walnut and Flora.
So is that, those
Flora.
Monroe, is Monroe where those apartments are at, those kind of?
Yeah, built brick ones.
So how do we feel about the definition of what we just had reviewed tonight, slamming in there, I guess?
That's medium density.
That's medium density?
Yep.
So,
Those are 2-story.
so the coloring for orange is medium?
Yeah, the only place in the city of Prescott that is zoned high density right now is the area that we're sitting in and what we approved tonight.
Can you scroll up really quick?
Sure.
So that's that Glen,
Glen Ridge Drive is the site that we
We
were
just did.
just dealing with.
so that's supposed to be a different color?
This is the future land use, so this isn't the zoning map.
Multifamily residence. So this is just multifamily residential, and then the numbers dictate the density.
Okay.
So essentially with this map, we would take the multifamily residential, and then if we annexed a piece in, we'd reference this map and we'd make the decision if we want to zone it high density or medium density.
So is that whole section zoned high?
Yes,
Up in Glen?
the part north of Glen Ridge, not
This-
the whole, the whole section I think is zoned high. All the way to Borner and a piece north of it, the housing authority land. And the Pine Meadows development that we just approved last year is all zoned high density.
So that would, and we have it listed as multifamily versus high and low density, but the growth areas are where we show that the bulleted list is what we define as. So like these areas, if you have somebody coming in to rezone and it's multifamily, that's what it's infill development, and that's what we care about, is it's okay that you're gonna rezone it to multifamily. If it's already zoned as is, and they're able to utilize it as, under its current zoning, then this future land use map doesn't really matter for those types of situations. It's really when people wanna look to rezone property.
Can you scoot over to Elm? If that's all right. Elm and Cherry?
That's straight down.
Go straight down?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you
There
go.
were Orange Street and Cherry Street.
Yeah, where's-
Elm should be right
where's
there.
Elm? Go up a little bit.
To the
And then go to the
It's right
left.
above Locusts.
Yeah,
Just
it's not
doesn't
labeled.
Just scoot
Yeah,
left,
labeled.
yeah.
See the green
above it.
spot? That's right next to the school.
Okay.
That's the public square park.
What
The
about,
green spot is.
what
This
is
here?
that orange up there?
Kate's right there on Orange and, right where it
and
says
Elm
the
Street.
G for Orange, that's Kate, that's where Kate lives.
Thanks for telling everybody.
I was just curious because we have a bunch of houses that are back off of Elm that have like 4 apartments in them, but it's like a single family home, and so I'm just curious like what they're zoned because like it's driving me crazy. So I'm just curious.
There's one R1.
Are they? Yeah. Okay.
It's the old
Just
hospital houses.
Where they have apartments in them now?
They
Like the
always
garage,
had-
that
They
one
always
there?
had apartments in because they housed the halfway people from the
good.
hospital.
What's that hospital, where the hospital was zoned then?
Yeah, that
The
is.
old hospital,
Mix-
that's at Orange,
mixed-
right?
Mixed,
Yeah.
or
This is the
multi.
25.
That's,
Yeah, that's it.
So 25, yeah, again, you have to go back to kind of the key.
yeah, it's where the old hospital was, and
I just wanted to know what it's zoned now.
So we have it listed as residential, institutional, governmental, plan for future assisted living facility.
yeah, which we have.
Yeah, they're taking their time coming back.
I would not even build right now. There's no way you could convince me.
So these are areas, really the focus areas are kind of on the outskirts generally, but there are some redevelopment pockets that we've talked about. But otherwise, you're talking about where growth is going to happen, and expanding infrastructure likely, adding new subdivisions or new development. So that's why we spent a little more time on that. But
The zoning map got approved last year, you're saying?
We updated the zoning map last year when we approved the PUD, and we changed high density, and we split it out to make it medium density and high density, so they're separated now.
Okay,
Before, we just had one high density.
just one?
anything else on this map?
No, I was just curious about those little random pockets, and if we were saying medium density, those ones that are in like neighborhoods. I mean, because this one's kind of like in a random spot.
Oh yeah, go back up. What's this?
There's the one that I was talking about that was down by the ball fields, but there's those random apartments. There's the ones that we already know about over by Flanders. And-
Yeah, what is that zoned?
Medium.
Medium.
It's gotta be medium.
Okay, what
The only
about,
high
The
residential.
Philanders ones, those are medium density over there. Yeah.
okay, so what about the school, like, so they're talking about selling the middle school, what is that zone still? Are,
That'd be a reasonable
Probably.
sign.
yeah, it'd have to be rezoned, right?
Right.
It's zoned school, yes, if they wanted to put apartments or condos, or they would have to be rezoned. Well, realistically, it would be a PUD that they would have to go through, and they'd have to
And they have to
get
meet the
plan
law.
commission.
Yeah, I just couldn't
Yeah, I
remember.
really think it.
They have to meet the
I
law.
think so.
I don't know how they would meet it though, because there's no space for parking. I mean, they tried to do that the last time, and I don't know. I'll be curious to see what they do.
Tear down the
Yeah,
gym,
short
build a
term.
parking lot.
They can't tear down the gym. You can't get rid of the gym. There's no gym space.
Oh, no gym space.
Yeah. The gym has to stay, the rest can go. Yeah.
I could charge for parking.
That's all.
The gym
I do,
space.
yeah, I do have gym space.
Well, it's relatively half
That's what
court,
they
I'm
want to
guessing.
save.
Why are you guys laughing about it?
The
Because they
next,
only want to save the gym.
I was joking.
the next section, just in the intergovernmental cooperation, I just referenced, we're not part of a drainage district. That's usually areas down by Milwaukee and that, so I just wanted to point that out, because that was, again, something in the statutes. And then consider working with Pierce County, Town of Oak Grove, Town of Clifton, and Prescott School District for opportunities for siting and building public facilities and sharing public services. Just to consider something to throw in there. And then implementation, this was part of, I think, did you send this out earlier, the whole table?
It was part of the last plan commission meeting, but no.
Okay, so if you recall, last plan commission meeting, we had a long list of all the, basically compiled all the goals, objectives, and policies. And this section here is just referencing things that we have already kind of have plans for changes in the codes. So then the next item was really this long list of implementation strategies from all the goals, objectives, and policies throughout the plan. And I don't know if you guys got this, had a chance, I know talked about going through it a little bit more, but this is again the summary of all of them.
I mean, do we baseline the last one where we're like, did we accomplish all this, before,
No, but that's a good idea, and that's something we talked about, I think, earlier in the process, is how do you have a success metrics, basically, of are these things getting done, and who's doing.
Because this is a long list.
It is a
You're
long
on
list.
0 to 5 on a chunk of them.
Yeah, And these are just, you know, again, ideal timeframes. If they don't get done, they don't get done. But it would be ideal to have some type of metric or some type of accountability of like, are these getting done? If they're not, are these really still the priority? And these all kind of go hand in hand with like a municipality strategic plan. If they're really a priority, then they should be a area of focus. If they're not, then they should get moved back or possibly removed. So we don't know that, you know, 5 years seems like a long time. It goes by really quickly
Goes
in
super
government.
fast. Especially for government. Especially when you work for the government.
So.
Retired. When you get retired.
So these are broken down again by chapters, and again, we worked with staff to identify, you know, kind of who would be the lead, taking the lead of these, and then what would be a reasonable time frame. So again, projecting, tough to do, but I think at the very least, it doesn't mean it has to be done for 0 to 5 years, but it shows a priority essentially of that. So, I mean, are we going to really get to some of the 6 to 10 year ones or the 11 years or greater? Probably not, but if you show them in the first 5 years, those would likely be ones you're going to focus on more before you get to the next, tier of time frame. Now, things change as developments come up. People come up with things, good things, bad things. They bring things back to the council or plan commission, and you have to shift priorities sometimes because you're like, well, we weren't planning on this new technology, or we weren't planning on this new business coming in here. Now
You're actually on one of them that is like one of the big topics for me, which is to update the housing study to get a better understanding of the housing stock. We have so much aging houses in town that to get them up to snuff, to sell them at the price they're at. I mean, I think that's a big concern I have is our aging houses, and you can drive through some sections of the city and they're not maintained. Especially some of the older historic homes, I mean, they're kind of a bear to deal with. You're kind of gutting them if the foundation, I don't know how all of our foundations were, if they were rubble foundations, I mean, I can just tell you, there's a lot of aging houses, and to redo them is gonna be like, might as well just tear it down.
Mm-hmm.
Tear it down. So I think that would be a big one.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, I think this housing studies through 2027, so you're right. In the next 5 years, you should certainly be looking at an update to the housing study.
Yeah.
So, and again, we're looking to set the public hearing probably June 1st, which would be your June plan. We can't do it in May anymore because of the 30-day window we have to have for a public hearing notice. But, typically you have your plan kind of set, but if there were things that came up in May and we wanted to talk about some things, we could still tweak it and add it as kind of an addendum to the plan. Once we have the 30-day notice, we have a draft plan that's going to be for consideration. But like I said, if we have some changes or tweaks, if you wanted to bring it out or talk about it at the May meeting, we could certainly do that and then have that as kind of like a separate attachment that could be shown as the changes from the public hearing document. So we're close, I think we're getting there. There's been obviously had some things pile up at the end here with the plan commission focusing on other things. So we're a little later than I had anticipated getting this done, but we're fine. I mean, we're almost to the finish line.
Okay.
So, any other questions or comment? I guess if you guys you have drafts of this, if you do have things you want to share with Matt or Luke, we can certainly look to make tweaks, and I'll be going again through this, and if I have any other minor things to change, I will. But just to make sure we're in a good spot.
Quick question. I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time to bring it up, but this document helps us steer the ship a little bit and control some of the outcomes. Big topic you see on the internet all the time is data centers.
No.
Right.
Well, we already know one.
Sorry, what?
Should we put regulation about
Yeah,
data
or
centers
some
though?
type of verbiage to help control that outcome.
That's,
I don't even know if we have room for what they're putting in. Some of these facilities are massive, but we are close to fresh water and
There's a possibility for these like
micro centers. Yeah, so I don't know. Is that in here at all? Do you know?
It's not. I mean, it isn't, but it's. I mean, I'm coming from Menominee, we're dealing with that right now, or have been in the last, 12 months.
This seems like a really good ChatGPT question of how to structure wordage, not to say, you can't do it, but also to eliminate the possibility of them to do it.
And there are a lot of,
When somebody comes in and says, I want to build on your 150 acres, and I'm going to guarantee my building's worth 100 million.
I don't think we want to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
There's so many problems that come with it that is not being highlighted right now.
Water pollution, electricity rates, everything.
so
There's not a plus.
Noise.
the state is eventually gonna probably adopt some limitations or some things that locally you can and can't do. It's just like they did with cell towers, just like they did with windmills. That's just what happens. So more than likely, there's gonna be some legislation that's going to, just like with the windmills and things like that, you're gonna have some limitations probably on what you can and can't do. Some communities are adopting specific zoning districts just for data centers. Because, when you think about what an industrial use is versus a commercial use, where do data centers fit in? They're not really they're producing cloud data storage,
Right.
So it's not really an industry per se. It doesn't really fit nicely in that type of categorization, but it's also not a commercial use. So where do you put it? So Menominee is in the process right now of creating their own zoning district specifically for data centers, or they have a district already designated for it, but they're kind of building out what all the requirements are under that district.
Seems like they're inviting it then.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, it doesn't mean necessarily that you have to have that district on your map. It's just that when that district does come up, then you have all of these parameters. You can control it a lot better.
And that's in this?
It's in Menominee. No, we don't have that in here.
Right. But they're putting that in their plan?
They're putting that in their zoning code.
Zoning code. So we could address this and don't have to worry about it right here necessarily?
I think you always have the opportunity. I mean, ideally, when you're doing changes to your zoning code or to your zoning code, it has to be consistent with your comprehensive plan. But that doesn't mean everything in your comprehensive plan has to be, explicitly listed in for what you can do in your zoning code. So I think it may not. It's something we can look at. Is there some good language that just kind of said consider, adding regulations pertaining to data centers? We could add that to like the economic development section or the land use section, if you guys are interested in that.
I think we want to do something because I don't foresee them probably coming here, but you just never knew. And the way that they get powered, in order to power all that, they're not running just off of the grid. So there's other stuff that comes along with it, like fuel.
Yep.
A simple bullet like that too helps us out to nip this later.
Yeah, and that's a good point, but it's just like a year ago, we wouldn't have thought of that. So just, 2 to 5 years from now, there might be something else that comes along the way, and we didn't have it in here, but that doesn't mean we can't address it. But it does give you a little more teeth to say, hey, we thought of this in 2026, let's, and you can be proactive or wait to see if something comes, but.
A lot of them are starting to go to South America now because they're getting so many residents that when they are trying to come to these cities, they're just revolting because of what's happened in a few others. But
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a big education component. I mean, there needs to be with those things. I mean, for citizens and public officials, there's a lot of unknowns or things that people should understand.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We're not done.
Oh, I thought you just did.
I think we
We
want
have
to set
other business.
so we want to set a public hearing for our comprehensive plan on
June 1st?
June 1st. If the plan commission wants to make that recommendation.
we'll make the recommendation.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, to set a public hearing on June 1st, correct? Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, other business, our next meeting is Monday, May 4th at 6. You'll have somebody new sitting in this chair. So thanks, everybody, for, volunteering your time and everything that you do. Appreciate it. And
Thanks, Rep, for your hard work.
now I'll entertain that motion.
Adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
You have a motion, a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're
See, we're up.
What are you gonna tell you?